So recently I created a new fan vid, if you will. It wasn't a fan vid that I normally would do where it's like clips from different shows and stuff. I'll be still doing that in the future. But this one I wanted to do because, the song, got stuck in my head, and I've liked the song for a long time since I've been a fan of the group for a long time, and I got to see them in person several years ago at the Stanislaus County Fair in Turlock, California. That, of course, is Boyz II Men, and the song I used was I'll Make Love to You. And basically this song, or this vid that I did, focused on some of my favorite ships: Sonic and Sally, Spike and Rarity, Yogi and Cindy. But, one thing that I'm pretty sure a lot of people wonder about is why are these fan vids, PMVs, AMVs, sometimes when they get made, focused on just one primary couple? Whether it's a couple from an anime, an animated series, an animated movie, an animated franchise, live action, comics. Why is that? Well, it's quite simple. It's because of the fact that people are fans of these couples. They are fans of the romance, the relationship, the chemistry that they have between each other. And when they look at them on screen, if it's in an animated series or movie or even live action, they know that if done right, a music video can correctly represent them. One good example from a more unofficial standpoint, if you will, goes back about 16 years ago. That is, of course, with the first Transformers film, which I saw in theaters months before I moved back here to California from Kansas. And the song basically was by the Goo Goo Dolls, called Before It's Too Late, which was basically the Sam and Michaela song, if you will. Basically the characters that were played by Shia LaBeouf, I should say, and Megan Fox. Those characters. And I've used that song already as well for Sonic and Sally, when it comes to Saturday AM and such and things like that. And the reason I used it is basically somewhat the same reason why it's been identified as the love song for, Sam and Michaela, in the first Transformers film. Basically because of the fact that, it kind of represents what they're going through to be together, or what they're going through before they come together and stuff like that. The same with Sonic and Sally. That's why I used it. But again, you look at these characters on screen, or you read them in comics, and you have basically, I guess you could say, you just have no option but to really be drawn to them and want to know more about them. And not only know more about them, but you want to see them get together or be together. And because you want to see that, and you want to know, more about them, and you want to know more about the closeness that they have with each other, and you want to see them get together, that starts making things spin in your head of, should I do something that centers around it? Like sometimes, depending on if you're very artistic, you could create an animation, like an SFM or a 3D CGI or whatever that represents it, even if it's a short 1-minute deal. Or you can do what one of the people that I follow and who follows me, George Gazzara, does. George Gazzara 1 did recently. And that's basically do an animation adaptation of a webcomic between Spike and Rarity, where basically Rarity finally confesses, her feelings for Spike, because she knows he feels the same way. And the way the animation was done is very, very close and identical almost to the original MLP animation used in the official show. The same could be said sometimes even outside of that, like The Folly of Celestia is another one. The Moon Rises, which is a nice little musical short, is another. Children of the Night is another. These are animations that are either similar, inspired by, if not a notch up from what you traditionally know from the traditional animation, that you see in the show, or even from what you read in a book. But again, fans will go to that, fans will go that far, if you will, sometimes to want to support certain, couples and ships. And that even includes, like I said, FANVIDS, AMVs, PMVs, you name it. In fact, one person I follow here on YouTube, well, I don't necessarily follow, but I liked one of her videos. She basically created an Applejack and Spike video way after the show was done. Yeah, and it was called Looking for a Cowgirl. And it focused on Spike and Applejack. And the reason it focused on them is because of the dynamic and the chemistry that Disney Fanatic put between them, in the Bride of Discord and Daughter of Discord series, as well as in the Prelude to Daughter of Discord series animatics that she was working on. So basically, this individual created this, and they did such a good job, at doing the video, that you couldn't help but even want to support and cheer on a Spike and Rarity, not Spike and Rarity, but a Spike and Applejack relationship. You couldn't help but want to cheer that on, if you will. And that's why sometimes you will see FANVIDS focused on Spike and Applejack outside of just Spike and Rarity. You will see that. Some you might even see on Spike and Starlight, believe it or not. And that's not a joke. That's not a joke. You will see some focus on Spike and Starlight because of the dynamic there between the two. But again, it's all dependent on fans' support for these ships, that you see all this creativity from FANVIDS, AMVs, PMVs, and so on. That's why you see, all these, all these FANVIDS and stuff coming about, becoming a reality and stuff. Over time. That is why when you look at my channel, even though I can't monetize off most of them, you will see a lot of Sonic and Sally FANVIDS. You will see a lot of Spike and Rarity FANVIDS. You will see that. You will see Yogi and Cindy. Why? Because I support the ships. I enjoy them. I want to see more of them. That's why. That's why I go out of my way and make those kind of vids. Sometimes I'll even make compilations like the one I did recently, as I mentioned, or even ones outside of that. Like when I was starting to do some MLP ones, from the romantic sense, I wasn't just focusing on Spike and Rarity, no. I was focusing on other ships that were teased, within the show. I was. For example, not only was I focusing on Spike and Rarity, but within some of the same videos, I would put Big Mac and Sugar Belle. I would put Starlight and Sunburst. I would put Pinky and Cheese Sandwich, Rainbow Dash and Soren, Twilight and Flash Sentry, you name it. I would put them in there. Fluttershy and Discord, I would put them in there because of basically their ships being teased or hinted at, in or Easter egged, if you will, into the show. And even in the comics as well. That's why I would do it. And upon seeing that, it makes me want to see those relationships like any other fans. It makes me want to see those relationships happen more so, than often. More so than often. I mean, look at G5, for example. You cannot tell me when you look at G5, if you will, of My Little Pony, that fans aren't thinking about creating FANVIDS, PMVs, based on Hitch and Zip, Izzy and Sunny, Hitch and, did I say Hitch and Zip? Or did I say Hitch and Pip? I do apologize. The name of the sibling. But again, you would see people doing or contemplating doing FANVIDS, PMVs of Hitch and Zip, Hitch and Pip, Izzy and Sunny, Queen Haven and Alphabet Little. They have a legit reasoning there now. The point is, if fans want to see it, and they see various moments spawned, or not spawned, but, what's the word I'm looking for? Spilled throughout the series on these couples, of course they're going to want to support them, and they're going to use their creativity to do so. They are. They're going to want to use their creativity to do so. So to me, this is why when someone like myself comes out and says, hey, I'm going to do a fan vid based on such and such characters, I'm going to do it because I want to support the characters, because I'm a fan of the ship, of the romance. I want to see more of it, if you know what I mean. I mean, for example, you can't tell me you can't tell me that you won't go here and you will not go onto YouTube here. You cannot tell me that when you go onto YouTube here, basically there aren't fan vids of Mickey and Minnie. There are. You can't tell me that there aren't fan vids of Max and Roxanne. There are. You can't tell me there aren't fan vids of Dale and Foxglove. There are. Gadget and Chip. There are. Chip and Tammy. There are. Dale and Gadget. There are. Baloo and Rebecca from Tailspin. There are. Bonkers and Fawn from Bonkers. There are. And so on and so forth. You cannot tell me that they aren't out there, because they are. And it's mainly because people want to support that romance. They want to support that ship. They want to support that couple, one way or another. That is why you see PMVs. That is why you see AMVs. That is why you see fan vids that focus on a singular couple or several couples or ships, together, because they want to support them. Even in anime, you see it. In anime, you see it. You cannot tell me for one moment that people do not do AMVs on One Piece's Luffy and Nami. You cannot tell me that. You cannot tell me they don't do fan vids to AMVs on what's that little creature's name? Moose creature, whatever he is, bear moose creature, and Nico Robin. You can't tell me they don't do that, because they do. You can't, because they do. You can't tell me that people don't do Sakura and Naruto, if you will, in a fan vid together. You can't tell me they don't, because they do. If they support the ship, they want to support it, they want to see it happen, they will do something creative, like an AMV, fan vid, whatever, to showcase that. That is why you see these things. That is why you see these things. I mean, heck, even ships that are officially not possible because of who owns the rights to the characters. People will create vids about them because they want to see it become a reality. They want to support it, even if they know from a corporate business standpoint there ain't no freaking way. The only way you're going to make it happen is through your own animation works or your own webcomics or fanfics. I mean, you can't tell me people don't do the Jack Frost Elsa fan vids, knowing darn well that, Jack Frost is, copyrighted of the, what's the name I'm looking for right now? In Rise of the Guardians. You cannot tell me people don't use that version of Jack Frost and put him in a fan vid, creativity-wise, AMV, whatever, with Elsa or Frozen, and try to say these two are an item, even though it's not possible corporate-wise. You can't tell me they don't do it, because they do. They do. And that is a fact. That is an absolute I wouldn't say scientific, but that is an absolute fact, no matter what. And it's all because people want to support the ship. They want to support the pairing. In fact, one pairing I'm going to talk about in another video here, Cubby and Sunny. I requested Disney Barbic years ago to do a fan vid based around them, sort of romance-wise. Even though she supports Sunny Gummy and Buddy Barbic, I asked her to do this because I'll talk about this more in the next audio video podcast, whatever you want to call it. I requested her to do something based between them, because I think there's more. But again, I'll talk about that later. But the point is, when she did it terrifically. She did it creatively, terrifically, and I appreciated it. I enjoyed it because it showed, even through a request, commission, whatever you want to call it, towards her, it showed my support for that pairing. Now, she didn't have to do it. She could have said, no, I don't really want to do it because it feels too like, it would feel too insensual and everything because they're more like brother and sister. And if she didn't want to do it, I would say, okay, no problem, let me come up with something else. But she did it because I think, honestly, part of her feels the same way I do. That if it's not going to be Sonny and Buddy Barbic, Sonny Gummy and Buddy Barbic, somewhere down the line, officially or not, it's going to be Cubby and Sonny. And I think she sees that. I think she sees why. But again, I'll get into that later. I'll get into that later. But again, this is why, and I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but this is why FANVIDS, AMVs, PMVs, whatever you want to call them, CMVs, this is why they're created around certain pairings, certain romances and ships, because people want to support them. That's why you see it, constantly, all the time, with FANVIDS, AMVs, and so on, and PMVs. When you see different, AMVs, FANVIDS, whatever, using the same imagery or footage, but it's a different song, and sometimes the imagery and footage is organized differently, it's because they're showing the support for that pairing. But what are your thoughts, guys? What are your thoughts on what I had to say here? What pairings of ships do you like to see, be represented in an AMV, FANVID, CMV, whatever you want to call it, PMV? Which ones are your favorites? You let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Also, Super Chats are open in the live chat if you want to help donate that way. Also, Super Thanks afterwards as well. Also, guys, check out my Patreon store. Check out my Patreon, support me there, and check out my Teespring store. That's what I was going to try to say, for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. And also check out BEW Rose's Discussions. That is my audio podcast at all your favorite various podcast locations, except for Pandora. But more specifically, guys, I would appreciate if you could check me out at Spotify with the podcast. That helps me out in a big way with the ambassador ads, from a financial standpoint. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Love to hear from each and every one of you. And until next time, I am out.